I've looked around and there's these two booths and there's women turning around, bending over, being sprayed. And I understand the guys get past like a little sock.
We don't want to spray there.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Rihanna as a shot. I'm going straight to the top.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Mike here with the Sports and the Real podcast. We're coming at you once again with another episode. Thank you for listening and watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your family and friends. Let them know what we have going on over here. Today, we have another amazing episode. I have a fire guest that I think you're going to enjoy. Like I tell you guys all the time, we're more than sports fans, we're human beings. And as human beings, we have to be resilient. We have to overcome if we're going to succeed and achieve our goal. And as you'll notice in recent episodes, I'm talking about mindset a lot and how your mind functions and psychology and things like that. And the reason for that is because I truly believe, and I have gotten to the stage in my life where I truly believe where fixing your mindset, having the right mindset, you can achieve anything. You can change your circumstances. You can change your life. You can even change the lives of your family and those around you simply by changing your mindset. So today I have a guest, Scarlett O'Connor, who is the definition of that. She has overcome a lot and has used her mindset to go from being kicked out at a young age by her mom to becoming a two-time bodybuilding world champion to now being an excellent life coach, teaching others to be resilient and to overcome. So sit back, relax, take notes, and enjoy this episode here with Scarlett. Scarlett, welcome to the show.
Right. Thank you. What a welcome as well. It's lovely to be here, and just your energy of starting the podcast. I mean, I'm feeling it over here.
I'm trying. No, I told you, I'm excited for this episode, and the reason is underdog stories is a sports fans love underdog stories. Sports fans love the stories of overcoming the odds, right? The David beating the Goliath. You weren't supposed to be here. That's what sports fans like, right? If you're familiar with anything about college basketball in the United States, there's something in March there is March Madness, where college basketball teams play against each other and they rank the teams, and sometimes you'll have like a super small school with very little funding and their basketball team is not that great going up against like a big time university with all the funding and all the best players, and sometimes a small school will challenge or even beat the big team, right? So they beat the odds. And I think your story is one of beating the odds. So I'm excited to have this conversation. And like I said, hopefully my audience here will take notes and apply some of what they've learned from you to overcome the challenges and odds in their lives. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start really right there, right? With immediately as a youngster, you're put out on the street by your mom at like 12 years old, which to me is ridiculous. I'm not sure why a parent would do that. I don't know if you were a bad child. I don't want to put you on the spot. So talk us through that, right? Take us from you being kicked out, why you were kicked out, and the challenges you faced there to essentially overcoming and being where you are now.
Yeah. Okay. So I like what you said as well about won't put you on the spot, but whether you're a bad kid, right? Because just to put it there, that everything you go through as a child, you do then put on yourself, right? You can easily make it about you. Why did it happen? Well, because there was something wrong with me, because I was a particular way. So in my memory, I remember, I'd say I was brought into this world by two people who shouldn't have had children. The two people just shouldn't have had children, but they did, and they brought me into the world. And really, I was dragged up. I was dragged up. I was I provided, I guess. That meant they got money. So there were certain benefits to having a child, right? And I wouldn't say that I saw those benefits of being a child. I'd say that my parents very much saw them. We moved around a lot. I went through a lot. My mum would quite often kind of leave my dad or get rid of my dad and go maybe going off with different men, and it was in a lot of situations that kids should be in. Went through a lot as a kid. Was made to keep quiet, get up, get on with it. Don't tell anyone, keep it yourself. Learned that from a really young age. And so I guess I probably knew as a kid that some things weren't right, and would look outside and think, like, why, I don't know, why their parents don't do these things, or, they're not treated in this way. But it's weird, isn't it? Because as a kid, although you might know things aren't quite right, you're still looking for a filter of love.
Correct.
Your parents are your parents. You still love them, right? You might not understand things, but you still love them. And it was actually, so my mum, just before my 12th birthday, my mum kicked my dad out, as she had done a number of times over the years. But this time she kicked him out, and she got a new boyfriend, someone we had known for years, kind of a family friend. And not very long after getting with him, she turned around to me and told me to call him dad. And I think that's probably the first time that I think, thinking back, like you asked, was I a bad kid? No, I was a really good kid. Like, as far as I remember, I did as I was told. Like,
right.
I couldn't misbehave. That was just the way I was brought up. Like, get up, get on with it, don't make a scene, do as you're told. And so I always thought I was a good kid, but I'd say that was my memory, the first time I ever said no. No, I went, I'm not doing that. No. And there, straight up in front of him as well, no, I'm not doing that. I've got my dad. And that day, that moment in me doing everything changed. Everything changed, because soon enough we were out of his house. She was very, very angry, wouldn't speak a word to me. We made our way home, and as we walked into the house, she literally walked into the kitchen, grabbed some black bag, walked into my bedroom, and started screaming at me, I don't want you anymore.
Wow.
And again, even when I go back and I think about that happening, I didn't scream, I didn't lash out, I didn't get angry, I cried.
Yeah, because you're 12.
I'm 12. I cried. I begged her to stop. I held on to her ankles. I cried. If I think back to the memory of it, I just cried like a little girl, like I was. Like, I've asked myself questions at the time. So my mum, she picked up the telephone at one point, and she rang my nan in front of me and told my nan that she had just caught me prostituting. Now, I guess part of it's probably because I didn't know what prostituting meant. That maybe but I didn't say you're lying. I didn't say stop. I didn't scream. I just stayed at her ankles and just cried, quietly begging her to stop, quietly begging her to stop doing what she was doing. And whether it was minutes, half an hour, whatever it was later, she picked me up and said she had had enough, don't want me anymore, and threw me out the door.
This is all the same day?
Same day, without my stuff that she had put into that bag.
Oh. Wow. So you didn't even get a chance to maybe change your mind or anything like that. It was like, you're not going to call him dad.
For anything.
Oh my God.
Okay. I was gone. I was gone. And the wild thing is, I remember looking at the door, it being closed in front of me, and just looking at it, thinking, just feeling utter shock, just utter shock. And I was for a really long time after that. And I'd say that probably even carried on for maybe even years afterwards, because I don't think, even though I'd obviously knew my mum had kicked me out, I don't think the reality of it all really set in. I just dealt with the pain I was feeling, but without really even still acknowledging or recognizing what my mum had even really done. That still filter of love was there, with just shock and confusion and pain to go with it. Like, I remember a few days afterwards, my mum said to me, she said to my dad, you can come and get her stuff. And we lived in a block of flats at the time. And she said, you can come and get her stuff. And my dad had found somebody in another place in flats to take all my stuff with me. And so that was what was agreed. And it made no sense. And I was obviously upset and angry and in shock about it. But okay, this is happening. And so I turned up to the flat door to come and pick up these black bags, all of my stuff that had been put into these black bags. And it just said on the door, your stuff is in the bin room. And I looked at it, and I couldn't believe what I see. Serious? Is this for real? You know, is this actually for real? And I was so upset because I didn't used to get a lot anyway, but it had just been my 12th birthday. I had a few presents, you know, there were a few things I've been looking forward to a whole year, like all kids do, right? And suddenly I've been kicked out, and now I'm told I remember just thinking, well, my stuff's not going to be in the bin room, is it? You know? And as I walked along to this communal bin room, you have this corridor, alleyway, and you can see back to the flat. And as I'm walking along this corridor, I look back, assuming my mum isn't at the house, isn't in the flat, to see her new boyfriend, and his kid all in the window giving me 2 fingers, saying things which I can't obviously hear, and swearing at me with his about 7-year-old son at the point. I remember looking around, almost looking around at the world, like looking around. Is anybody seeing? Is anybody actually seeing this? Is this camp? You know,
it sounds like a movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I know, right? And it felt like it. It honestly felt. I even when I think back at the time, and even when I think back, it's not. It doesn't seem real. You know, it didn't seem real. So I was so like. I just couldn't make sense of any of it. You know, couldn't make sense of any of it at the time. I was just remember standing there and looking around, being like, is this actually pinch me? Is this like, am I here? Is this really happening? Am I dreaming? You know.
So you're kicked out and you have to go live with someone, like someone your dad knows. Oh, you go live with your dad.
With my dad. Yeah. So my dad was my dad was very mentally ill. He'd suffered from mental illness since I was born into that. I didn't know my dad any different. My dad was many, many years older than my mum. He'd always needed help, was definitely never a father. You know, couldn't look after me. We looked after him. Back and forth from psychiatric wards and all sorts every year.
Oh, wow.
So my dad was really unwell, you know, really unwell and alcoholic and not able to look after himself. And so I don't doubt it wasn't easy for my mum, you know. I can't imagine. I would never know, you know. Never spoken to her about any of it, but I can imagine it wasn't the easiest. So, you know, being an adult in that kind of relationship. But yeah, my dad, I went to live with my dad, but my dad couldn't even grasp really the seriousness of what was going on, of what he needed to do as a father. You know, as soon as we moved in, I had to look after him. You know, I had to. So,
as a 12-year-old.
Wow. Even when it didn't take long for social services to get involved. Actually, obviously, with my dad being mentally ill, alcoholic, having all these problems, and so even social services when they first got involved with us, because they not only understood what had happened, but I had to grow up from quite a young age anyway, and so I think the way I presented myself helped in that they allowed me to live with my dad for maybe longer than they would usually do. And my social worker actually taught me to cook when I was like 13. So she would come round, and the agreement was that if he could just stay in the house between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. and I was happy to cook and clean and do all of that other stuff, then they would help me, you know. And so weirdly, there was this wonderful agreement that had my dad, I guess, been able to just stay out of the pub and stay at home.
Basically, stay home at night and you're okay. You don't have to lift a finger. Just stay home at night and you'll be all right.
You don't have to do anything else. Just make sure you pass me the money every week, that I go get the shopping, that we're cooking, and all you actually have to do is be here at 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And every time the police knocked at the door to go, is he here? It was like, you just don't want to answer. I'm not answering that door tonight. I'll let them guess. If he's not answering, I'm not. And so, it wasn't then long before I got a knock at the door one day. Police officers with social services to say, we've taken the case to court and you have a care order that has been placed on you. And so you're going into care and you'll be there if you're 18 or 21. And that was it.
But like, you didn't have a say in it. Like, this was it like a family member who recommended this, or
I think my mum was to do with it. I think my mum was to do with it. That used to be back then. Mum's had full parental responsibility, so things have changed a lot since then. So I think my mum had a lot to do with it. She didn't want me. She had a lot to do with say me going into care. But I wasn't involved in that until they knocked at my door to say, "We're taking you now." And at that point, actually, in utter shock again, ran and rang the police, or got somebody else to ring the police and say I would be back the next day. But I just needed one evening to process what was going on, get my stuff together, and to say goodbye to friends that I was all of a sudden about to leave. So yeah, it was it was all a bit. There was a lot of shocks. There was
How long between you being kicked out and then you having to go to protective services?
About just over a year, I think. I got into quite a bit, not trouble, but living with my dad, not being able to look after me. As you can imagine, I was early on in senior school. When my mum got with her new boyfriend, so just before all of that happened, she actually not took me out of school officially, but took me out of school so she could spend time with him. And I was in my first year of senior school. And so my attendance had already been damaged a little bit, but that moment my mum kicked me out. I didn't go to school. So I didn't go back to school. I didn't go to school. My dad didn't make me go to school. When I went into foster care, I ended up going to a naughty school, and then even having problems with not attending there. And so I just that really, like, for my education as well, that's really where education ended for me. I stopped, or started again as an adult, obviously, but as a child, it really came to an end at that point.
So like 13.
Yeah, 12 really, when my first year of senior school, that was.
You just stopped. Wow. Okay, for
Pretty
us, 12, to give my American audience, 12, we're in middle school. I think that's probably like 7th grade.
Yeah.
So basically, 7th grade education, your mom says, that's enough. I need to spend time with my boyfriend. You're done with school.
Yeah, and I think she got with this new boyfriend, and it was just in those few weeks or whatever. It was like, well, his kid can go to school. We'll go over and spend time with him. His kid can go to school. We won't worry about you so much. I don't know, would that have carried on? Was that just in her little honeymoon? I don't know what was going on. I won't try and understand that whole psyche anymore.
Yeah.
At all. But but from that point, life turned upside down and went a completely different way. So I could have ever thought it would, or imagined that it would.
Wow. Okay. So 13, you're in foster care. And then you said a couple years later, like, you're having a child.
Yes. And now I say that happily with a big smile on my face. Some people will be thinking, oh my goodness, she did what, like 15, 16. Yes, I don't recommend it to anybody. I'd say to nobody, have a child at 16. But those years were really difficult for me as a teen. Like, I really struggled. Struggled to fit in, struggled to feel. Started hanging around with lots of older people, getting into older circles, into all sorts of drink, drugs, all the good stuff that an adult's doing, right? A teenager or older teenager's doing. And I attempted to take my life a couple of times. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to deal with it all at point. Just didn't know how to deal with it all. And I would say my son saved me.
I was gonna say, who was in your life to help you get through all that? Because it sounded like your circle was just people who were encouraging you to do drugs and things probably that aren't so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I had another couple of good friends, and like my son's dad, he was a great person in my life. We didn't last. That was a young relationship. It went through a lot. A good person's always still been there. Still, yeah. Lots of kudos and love for that man, for what he's been and who he's been. But I'd say it was my son that gave me that. It was my son. The moment I found out I was pregnant, everything inside me changed. Things that had no importance, including things like education. Things that really didn't matter and that hadn't mattered, had no value in my life whatsoever. It all suddenly had so much more value. It all suddenly mattered. Like it immediately mattered. The moment I knew he was coming along, yeah, every purpose. I had purpose. I had a reason for those things to matter, you know?
So your son at 16 turns into your purpose that otherwise probably doesn't materialize. It's crazy how circumstances happen that way. You probably didn't ask to get pregnant, but without getting pregnant, you probably don't recognize that purpose that you have to become who you are today. That's interesting. So did you end up going back to school like at 16? Like what happens at 16? Obviously you have a child and you have to care for a child. So how does that carry over into actually putting the steps in motion to becoming who you are today?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. So, like I said, I hadn't really gone to school, and I was at a naughty school at the time, right? You don't even have to go there for the same amount of hours every week. And yeah, as I mentioned, like I just had no interest in any of it. You know, just there was no value to it. And when I found out I was pregnant, I had one more term to go of the year. It was past Easter holidays, and we would have one last term before the exam. And so I went in school and I asked to appeal, basically, against the decision to not let me sit exams. And I was almost laughed at initially, like, what are you doing? It's almost 2 years too late, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing? You kind of can't sit these. And I appealed and I said why. And basically what they said is, well, if you will catch up on the 2 years, if you could even do that, if you can catch up on the 2 years, we'll allow you to have three subjects. So we're not going to give you the others, I'm not going to give you all of that. But if you will catch up, then we will give you the opportunity to get 3 grades. Now there are exams you would have missed, you're only going to be able to get, etc. But we will give you that opportunity. And so that was what I did. Suddenly, again, like school, which had never been important. And it was only for 3 months, right? But those 3 months, school meant something to me that it never had before. And so I did manage to catch up. I did manage to do the exam, and I did manage to come away with 3 grades. And so that was all that I had. So I had that, which would have been nothing beforehand, right? And then, it wasn't very long after my son was born that I started working. I worked when I was back in school, when I should have been at school, I was working. And so it wasn't long after my son was born that I started to work. I then went to college part-time when I was 18, 19 to study.
You were able to get into college without, like, I guess that the test that you took, those 3 tests was enough to get you into college.
Those 3 were enough. I had maths, English, and IT of grade C. So that was enough. That was enough to get me.
Just barely getting by.
Just barely getting by. But would have never have had that had that not happened.
Right.
You know, it's wild thing. And then as you can no doubt imagine, child, no family support, not much education. It was pretty clear to everybody that I would probably amount to nothing.
Well, a lot of kids are. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of kids here are told that, right? Like they have certain background, certain family situations, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not." You know, we have teachers. I mean, I know people who teachers told them like they weren't gonna be anything because of their circumstances, how they grew up there. So I can imagine, someone seeing you like, "Yep, teenage mom, no family support, no education. She's probably gonna be, homeless, poor the rest of her life."
Yeah. And I kind of get it. It's just this assumption people are making based upon what they know and what they believe and what
the stats back them up.
Yeah, and I mean, watching my son grow up, and hit those ages, and watch him actually as a child, like I get it. I completely get it. Which is I was so certain as well from the minute I knew he was coming that it was the right thing for me. That he was the right thing for me, that this was the right thing, and that I had this deep belief that I needed the opportunity to be able to. I'd had enough of people looking after me, thinking that they know better for me, thinking that they can look after me, and that's how I'm going to do well. When actually I was certain that I could do a much better job than anybody who had tried before, and that all I needed was the opportunity, the age, to be able to go and do it. I was, I guess, certain in myself in that given the opportunity, I feel I'm going to do a better job. And I think that wanting to prove as well, that like wanting to prove to myself, to others, was probably a big driver of it. You know, that driver of wanting to prove, and also wanting to get away from, wanting to be nothing, not wanting to be poor, not wanting to struggle in that same way, not wanting to wanting more, not knowing what more is necessarily, but knowing that that's what I want and that I feel I'm capable of getting it. I just don't quite know what that looks like or all the details yet.
No. Poverty can keep you stuck, or it can be a driver for success.
Yeah.
So in your case, it was a driver for success. So you're pregnant, you have a child. I'm assuming things are a little dicey, maybe start to get better. And then 2015 happens. You're assaulted by a police officer, and then your car crash. Like, that's a lot. Walk us through that. So I'm assuming you start coming into your own, right?
People are thinking, what the fuck is that?
As soon as you leave one thing and go to the next. Like I said, this is a freaking movie, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a lot for one. It's a lot for one person. I mean, I know my own trauma, but this is a lot for one person. So you have a child. Maybe things are rough, but maybe you're starting to get better. You're starting to find your way. You're becoming a young woman at this point, and then the next thing happened. The next shoe drops. So the next shoe drops. Talk us through that part.
Yeah. Okay. So, as you mentioned, so yeah, worked hard. I gained a great career. Managed to gain a great career in IT. Actually, worked my way up. I think that self-belief, when we talk about that, like self-belief, that's so important, right? That's such a big driver for the things that we do, the things that we accomplish, and it's so important that we work on that and do believe in ourselves. And so, yeah, in 2015, I went on a girls' holiday, 30th birthday, all parents, all leaving their kids at home, just the girls. It was lovely. It's like, okay, I've been looking forward to this, all want to be in that position. You never know where you're going to be when you're older. You have these plans, and then there, and it's like, oh yeah, we can do this, and we're in this position, go away, fly away for the weekend, leave the kids at home, etc. And it was really wonderful. And being 30 girls, we were drinking. It was a great weekend, no children. We booked an all-inclusive holiday, all-inclusive place. And so it was 4 or 5 days of just a lot of alcohol, really. Lots of dirty time, lots of alcohol. And every night we went to the same club. We left the hotel, we went to the same club. And on the final night that we were there, I went to walk out of the club with my drink, actually, thinking it was funny to walk out. The bouncer didn't find it so funny. I thought he would. He'd been getting into my mate tonight. I just thought I'd get away with it. But he really didn't find it. He really didn't find it funny. And as soon as I tried or went to do that, I saw another side to him. It's like, get out of the club. And he wouldn't. He actually, from what I remember, wouldn't really speak to me after that. He was like, "No, you're not coming back in. You're not doing." And me and lots of other people who didn't know me were pleading with him. So it's ridiculous. Let her back in. She didn't do anything. Lots of other stuff. All my friends were inside the club. But he wouldn't let me in. I think I caused a bit of commotion outside. We drank a lot. It's our last night. And it ended with suddenly the Land Rover pulled up. And 4 armed police officers get out of the Land Rover. One of them grabs my arm. They walk up to the door of the bar. They're talking to him in Spanish. They refuse to speak any English. Wouldn't even look at me, just got me in the arm, just talking. My friend comes out of the club. They grab her. And then he was saying, "Where's your passport?" And I said, "I'm not giving you my passport." I go home to him. No. And I haven't done anything. I'm not, that's kind of where I was coming from. They were like, "No, we want your passport." And then they saw the all-inclusive bands on our wrists. We're like, "Well, that's where they are. Let's just take them there." It was only 100 yards up the road, 100 yards up the road. So
that's the hotel?
That's the hotel. So one of them jumped in the van, the kind of lead guy, the head guy, chief guy. He led up front, and the other two had us by the arms. And they've just escorted us up the road with a Land Rover behind us. And I even remember walking up, and my friend said to them, "Would you treat your girlfriend like this, or your sister like this, or your daughter like this? Like, what are you doing?" And I wouldn't say anything made it worse or made it We got up there, I walked into the hotel, and I ran up to the reception screaming, basically, how they're corrupt. I don't know what I said, something like that there. And I just remember her kissing her teeth at me. And I was just like, wow, I called her a name. And as I turned back around, he punched me, and before I fell to the floor, he'd already grabbed my hair and smashed me off the floor.
The police officer's doing this
The police officer.
in front of everybody?
In front of everybody. So I don't know this because I remember turning around and him going towards me. He smashed my face off the marble floor.
What the?
He broke my... So at that point, and what I was then told is that as he smashed my head, he then pulled his sleeves back. While he's pulling his sleeves back, getting ready to go, my friend is being held back by the security guard. She then screamed at him, you killed her, screaming at her at the top of her lungs, you killed her. He looked back round to realise that I'm actually bleeding to death, and they've all gone into panic. She said they picked you up by your hair, put you on a chair. She said next minute these cleaners and different people came out from every direction of the hotel. They're all mopping you and sorting you out, and she's gone to video of her phone apparently, and one of the police officers has taken her phone, made her delete it. And then before the ambulances got there, they got out. Police got. And so I woke up in the hospital to them stitching my tongue up. I had a broken nose, broken eyebrow socket, cheekbone, all the bones in my face really on one side of my face. I had stitches in my head, nose and tongue, 4 blood transfusions. I was really, really lucky to be alive. I'm very grateful that that they called an ambulance, that they got me the help anyway.
Was he charged?
No. No.
So I don't know if you follow the news in the US, but this is quite a frequent police overstepping their boundaries and getting abusive happens frequently in the States. And it's crazy to hear that happening, elsewhere as well. It's like, well, I guess it's not just the US that this stuff happens, and it's everywhere where police are just, he's manhandling a woman, by the way, right? Usually, not to be sexist, but usually it's dudes that are getting beat up over here, and nobody's doing anything about, people getting killed and the police get to go on vacation over here. That's crazy that you went through all that and nothing happened. He just when I was at the hospital, the police turned up at the hospital, and I went into panic. I ran so fast, I was so scared. And then that was when it actually had to be a Scottish police officer. And he explained that there were 2 police. You've got your local police, and then you've got your national police. And he was from the national police. And what you just shared is pretty much what he said to me, was that he'd been out there for 20 years or something. And he said it's not unusual, and it's not right, but it's not unusual to see and hear of men being beaten up, especially as tourists coming over, being all loud and whatever. Yeah.
It's not unusual to hear. But he hadn't seen it happen to a woman. So he urged me to report it. And so I did. I went and reported it. When it not only reported it, but I came back, I got a solicitor, I did my best to do something about it. But everything was gone. I couldn't do anything. The CCTV footage from the hotel was never there. The hotel CCTV wasn't working that day.
Magically wasn't working.
Magically wasn't working. The police were never called that night. There was no record.
Great.
And so, as far as anyone was concerned, the only report was what they had made, which was I fell down the stairs in the hotel.
What?
And the only thing we had, which was any reference, was that the hospital had said the injuries don't match what they're being said. What's been said. Yeah.
Your friends were there. Like, their testimony didn't matter in this at all, or?
Even when I did my testimony. So the police officer said to me, I understand you're scared and you don't want to go to a police station, but when you fly home, there is a police station at the airport. So I said, okay, that's what I'll do then. So we got to the airport a bit earlier, and I walked in and I'm closed up, right, because my head's all bandaged up. Well, like one eye I can't see up. This is all broken. So I've walked into the police station and I'm covered like this. I've got my glasses and I've got my hood up. And so I've gone in and they've sat me down. And they say, and it's kind of like, oh, what have you been in Magaluf? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, what's happened? I said, I've been assaulted by a police officer. And he said, yeah, right. And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what?
Sounds
All right.
about right.
Yeah, and him and the colleague had just sat like looking at each other and saying a few Spanish words that obviously I don't know. And he went, okay, let's see. Let's like, come on then, let's see. And I went, okay. And as soon as I've gone to lift off my glasses, before I even started to show the rest, you can see them suddenly like, no, it's not no longer funny. Yeah, they can see the state that I'm actually in.
Yeah.
And so I've started to take it off, and as I've started to take off my glasses, one of them started, well, okay, well, can you tell me what's happened? Can you go, tell me what happened? You said you were assaulted by a police officer. And so I've told them what's happened, shown them, and they said, okay, wait there. And then they've gone back to the room, and you can see through this little glass window, off like men in suits and different people all suited a bit, all looking through, pointing at me. And then not very long after, they walked up and said, right, all three of you out, you need to go, which only she can say. So I had nobody with me for statements, nobody with me for evidence, nobody with me. It was you three girls, women, need to go through because you're going to hold up. You know, you've got to get through security. You've got to get on your flight. You've got to get
right.
So I think like the flight was delayed because of me having this done. But they were like, yeah, you need to go. You ladies need to go through. So I had to stay on my own and have them. Yeah. And she even said to me after she took the statement, she said, just to let you know, I'm really sorry to say that nothing's going to happen with it. I'm so sorry to say this. And her words were, you would have to be so powerful in this world. Like, you'd have to be so powerful in the world for this to ever be able to come to light. It just, it didn't happen. And she said, I'm just so sorry, you know. And
10 years later, nothing's changed. I'm telling you.
It's a really crazy position, isn't it, that the police have? You know, that they have the power to be able to do something and hide it.
Oh yeah.
It's just, they're in they're a different position from the rest of the world. You know, in that.
Yeah, not to take this conversation left, but over here, a lot of, I'll say, black folks, to be totally honest, don't trust the police. Because things happen in, you know, black communities, poorer communities, disadvantaged communities, and it's oftentimes covered up. So I don't know about in England now. I know for us, cops now have to wear body cameras, and even with the body cameras, you'll see the footage, and somehow, I don't know, if you read the news in the U.S., you'll read about these shootings and you'll watch these videos. And these cops will still get off. They'll still, we call them vacations, right? They get paid vacations for killing people and executing people here in real time and live on national TV, basically. So they have a different existence, a different level of protection that the average citizen doesn't.
Yeah.
And it goes back years, and it's still happening today. And you were just an unlucky person to happen to go through that situation yourself. So I don't want to digress too much, but I did want to share that with you if you're not aware.
Oh yeah, and it is just wild to I don't like to, because I know that my incident isn't going to be the only one either. Now, while I might have not met other women who've been in this situation, I don't think that I will be the only person.
Yeah.
Know? And there will be plenty of men. So thinking it's not right that it's happening with the men either. Like, I might be the only woman, like that police officer said that day. Oh, I've not seen this before, but what we'd usually have, like, it's not right anyway.
Yeah.
It's not right that happens, and what you're left with, and that anybody, especially in that position, can be able to get away with things like that. On causing, on being a criminal, right?
Yeah, they get to be a criminal, and you know, nothing ever happens to them. Yeah.
So, it's crazy. So that happened, and then doing what I'd always done, I kept it to myself. You know, I don't tell people my shit. So this is all new, this whole vulnerability, telling people my stuff, and coming on podcasts and doing all that great stuff as well. I didn't tell anyone what I was going through. And I don't think I even really admitted to myself that how it affected me. I don't think not only, I didn't admit, I just did what I'd always done, get up and get on with it, right? And 2 years later, my dad passed away, as you know by now. He's not really a dad as such. He was my only dad. And 8 weeks later, I burnt out, and I ended up passing out of the wheel of my car and going into a tree at 50 miles an hour. Thankfully, I woke up from the coma that I ended up in. And so you can see now on here, I have still a huge scar across my head, scars across my face. And that was, a result of waking up burnt out. And I'd say that burnout has a lot to do with the things I'd never dealt with, no doubt. I'm running and operating the way that I did for so long, unaware that things were no doubt affecting me.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. So how you go from assaulted by police a few years later to burning out, and the burnout leads to, I guess, the car crash, right? What all is in that mix that causes that burnout? Are you working too much, taking care of a child without any support? Like, what exactly went into all that burnout?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. Like, I never knew what burnout was before. I only looked up burnout when the doctors said, we think that's what we're going to put it down to. Your body's given up, and I think from my understanding now of burnout and how it can come about, a lot of the time it's the way we operate. It can be that we operate in a way that we think is good for us, but perhaps isn't serving us in the best way. So you can tend to find that many of us become quite high achievers. Maybe run at 100 miles an hour, always facing challenges and fear head on. Constantly, when we feel things or we go through things, we do just suppress what's going on, and get up and move forward.
And keep pushing. Yep.
And keep pushing. And it's that resilience that I think when we think of resilience, I always thought like resilience was being resilient, it's getting up and it's getting on with it, and being that strong person, and it's being that. And I think there certainly was to me, like that lack of understanding of really how does the brain work, how does adversities and the things we go through affect us, how does that impact how we operate? Because we can operate thinking we're running really efficiently, right? But actually, I think for me, probably running from a place of fight or flight for probably many, many years. And it's that operating in fight or flight, not knowing that there's things manifesting, repressed, I think all of those things are what, for me, certainly led to burnout. Not dealing with things in the healthiest of ways,
Yeah, I recently had a guest on the podcast to talk about that. We've been trained to basically, like you said, run at 100 miles per hour all the time. Especially if we're trying to succeed and be high achievers, right? We're just going to keep going and going. Adversity comes, we're going to keep going and going. No time for any kind of rest, whether physical or emotional or spiritual rest. And she was like, if you don't take time to filter those things out and to actually rest from those things and to acknowledge those things, that drive is going to lead to your failure, essentially. And it's going to lead to your demise. Thankfully for you, it was a car accident that you survived. Many, and thankfully is probably not the right word, but I guess thankfully you survived. Not thankfully the car accident, but thankfully you survived.
Yeah.
Thankfully you survived and overcame, that burnout. You're on the other side of it. But a lot of people, that burnout just leads to, a downward spiral, because they never took time to acknowledge what they were facing and to truly grasp and truly put those in the rearview mirror. They just kept packing things on. They keep packing things on their back and then hoping, they make it to the top of the mountain with all this extra baggage. And often it doesn't work out that way.
No, and I mean, you just do the best with what you know, right? We're
Yep.
just doing the best with what we know. I haven't ever purposely done something I didn't purposely burn out. I didn't
Right.
purposely, I didn't even know what these
Right.
things were, you know. I think we're always just doing the best with what we know, and what we know, or what I knew, just, could have been more, would have been helpful. It would be helpful to know what I know now, and that's a beautiful gift that I did stay alive. I can take
Yes.
from it, is that, because I think even back to like a really basic of, like many of us were brought up kind of in a similar situation to me, like get up, get on with it, be resilient. And so in many cases, we don't even know what our needs are. You know, we don't really know how to meet them. Like even if we think back to like really basic, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs that he described, and we know,
Yep.
don't we? Like with a child, you know, when you have a child, you look after their needs. You know, you make sure those needs are met, and you can tell when they're not met, even on a very basic level, right? Your kid hasn't had enough sleep today. Oh, your kid hasn't eaten yet. They're
Right.
hungry. They're tired. Like, you
Basic
know,
needs. Yep.
basic needs. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens when they're not being met? They don't necessarily operate the most efficiently. They
Right.
maybe pass out on the sofa today when they're, you know, usually got loads of energy at this hour. And
Mm-hmm.
I think as adults, we can easily become adults not doing those things for ourselves, and not knowing either how to do those things, what those things are, what would be helpful to us. We just operate in a way that we've learned that works for us. We develop coping mechanisms that aren't always the most healthy, that aren't always the best, but they're what we do. You know, when I'm feeling a bit shit today, I've had a bad day, I'm stressed, I've got all this pressure on me, you know, I don't talk, but I do go to stuff, or I do buy a bottle of wine, or I do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we find our ways, right? But those ways, sometimes we're just running them so automatically. We're just coping with things in the way we know how to, without realizing what's building up, you know, what's actually going on for us. And so it's I guess ignorance, but also unawareness, I think, is there. Like, I remember, you probably guessed, no doubt from what you've heard, there were enough people who always told me I should go and speak to somebody. Like, yeah, but
Yeah.
nah, yeah, I get what you're saying, but nah,
But yeah, you know, that's not my
that's
style.
not how I do it. So,
So you just kept packing things on, but you pack all these things on, right? You wake up from a coma, I guess. Obviously, you woke up from a coma. You have all this happening, and somehow you found a way to becoming a bodybuilder.
yeah.
So how does that happen? How does that transition happen? You wake up from a coma, right? You get back to work. I'm assuming, you know, things are going okay, decent enough to where you're like, I think I want to lift weights. How do you get into that?
Okay, so I actually started lifting weights when I was about 21, right? That's when I found fitness, and it became a part of my life from that point. So I did
Mm-hmm.
learn to do that for myself, mainly because I give myself such a hard time because of my baby belly and all those things that I hated about. So it was from a hatred still side, you know, that even really started. But I'd found fitness in my 20s, really grateful to have found it. It was, something I never understood, never did. And yeah, it changed my life from the minute. Maybe not the minute I found it. I know when I think back to getting fit, it was bloody hard, and I definitely didn't enjoy it. But it probably wasn't too long after, even when it was tough, I realized quite how good it is for us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like quite how much of a better day I had, or how much happier I just felt with myself. And after my accident, I couldn't train for about 8 months because of the head injury. So I was
Yeah.
unable to train. And so that probably didn't help either. But going through what I was going through, I really struggled to, I don't know, even look in the mirror at myself, you know, at the scars, at what had happened. And I'd say I went down before I came back up, for sure. But in that January, the year after, in 2018, I decided, okay, all right, enough's enough with that. You know, I can't stay down in that place. I need to come back from this. I need to come back stronger. And I've done this before, but I was doing something wrong before because it didn't work out the best. You know, I came back stronger last time as well, but I ended up burnt out. And so it's like, how do I do this time? And so, yeah, that's, I guess, how I discovered as well, and why I make such a point of the importance of like learning about our needs and learning to put ourselves first. And because that wasn't something I knew how to do very well. And I'd say from that January onwards, really, I started to go on a bit of a self-love journey. I'd say that's really where it started, that real, okay, coming back stronger. I also had this is where I looked at my life and kind of went, are you happy? If you were to die now, which you almost did, are you going to be happy? And the answer was yes, with where I am and what I've done for my son and all this. But knowing that can happen at any point, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And that was when it's like, well, you always want to help people. So no, if you now you know that this could happen and you might not be here. It was definitely a catalyst to me to start learning or working on changing careers, working on going to helping others. But I didn't feel that I would be in a position to really help anyone else until I'd helped myself. And so I knew I needed to come back stronger. I knew I needed to help myself. I knew I needed to find out how to do that. And I discovered some really great tools and learned all about neuroscience, how trauma impacts the brain, how the adversities we go through impact how we think, feel, act, and how that can show up, how I got to burnout, how I could start making sense of some of that, and what I could do to make sure it didn't happen again. And lo and behold, what I'd set this goal to come back stronger, what I knew I needed to prove it to myself first. I didn't know how I was going to do that. And then one day, I was at the gym and a guy said, you should really become a power lifter. I was like, what? And I came home and I even though I'd gone to the gym for over 10 years, I wasn't in that world. I didn't know about all these different sports. I just didn't know. And so I came home and I looked and I was like, oh, no. I don't think that's what I want to do. But then I saw a competition, fitness competition.
Why do you, sorry to interrupt. Why do you say that to you though? That's kind of random. Like I see women at the gym lifting all the time, and I'm never like, she would be a good power lifter. Like she should go do bodybuilding. It's like, no, she's just trying to stay in shape. Like, did you ever ask this guy, like, what made you think like I could be a bodybuilder? Like, what the hell?
I think part of it, probably new gym. I'm somebody new. There would have been part of that. I'd walked into the gym. I was lifting quite heavy for a woman, I guess. And I believe that he used to coach many years ago in powerlifting. So I think that's where it was, it was that. But it did spark my brain, which I was grateful for. And so, I came back that night and I saw a competition and it just said fit mum. And I thought, you know what? I spent 10 years working on my body to get it to being better. I'd say I'm a fit mum. And I'm gonna say it. I was just like, I'm a fit mom. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. But I thought I was entering a fitness competition, and then the next day I get a call and the lady says, "Oh, hey, Scarlett. So 5 weeks time, you're at this event. Blah 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 blah. How's your prep going? Have you got your tan booked? Have you got your eye walk? Have you got your have you got your heels? Have you got your bikini? Have you got?" And I'm like, wait. You're like talking Japanese. What are you on about? She said, pardon? Your bodybuilding competition's in like 5 weeks. So I was like, pardon? What?
You're just trying to be a fit mom here. She's talking about your...
So it happened by accident, really. That day, I then went and seen her. I walked out of the meeting with her just like, whoa, what have I entered? And then kind of just went, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I've signed up. The challenge is on, and I've already realised I need to do things for me, and I need to have more of those things in my life. So perfect. I know it's wild. I know it's crazy. I know it means I can't drink. I can't eat chocolate. I can't do all these other things I want to do. I've got to lose all this other weight. I've got to do all these things, and it's going to cost me a larger sum of money than the 20 quid I thought I was entering the competition for. But I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it, and. So I went into it with that reason. I just need to do this to me. And I thought I was just going to do it the once. And on the day of the competition, I ended up bumping into a friend, somebody I hadn't seen in quite a long time. And he's a coach. And he came up to me halfway through and he said, "Oh my God, you're amazing. Oh my God, you have to do this again. Oh my God." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't know what you're on about." I was like a deer in headlights that day. Like, and I was like, no. And then a couple of weeks later he rang me again and he said, "Hey, have you thought about it anymore yet?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I'm really, that was it. And he said, "Well, yeah, I believe you can go further, and I'd really like to coach you, and
Wow.
I'd really like to help you. And so I seen a competition in the UK. I started looking into it, taking an interest in what was it he was talking about, where were these federations, and there was a competition in the UK. If you won, they'd take you back to America. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, well, what an opportunity, you know. I'd not been to the States,
Mm-hmm.
so I thought, what an opportunity, and what a crazy idea that if I could go out to America and I could win out there, right? And so when I spoke to my coach next, I said it to him. I said, okay, look, I want to do this too, but I want to go from a coma to being out in America and winning Miss Atlas. And he was like, what's going on? 1 minute you're like, no, it's just one time, I don't want to do this. And now, and so I said, yeah, because we can keep this between us and I don't want anyone else to know. But yeah, I want to prove this to myself, and I want to prove to others that you can come back from these things, you know. Like this time I'm left with scars on the outside, not on the inside. And I have an opportunity to show others now that. And so I think that was a big, when we talk about like having a big why, purpose, to take action, I think always knowing, having that, it's to show somebody else as well, you know. I want to show you. I want to show you that it don't matter what you've been through, where you've come from, what's going on, you can come back. And that was really, I guess that was a huge driver of why it was so important. And in 2019, 18 months later, really proud to say I got taken out to America, representing Great Britain with the team, and won Miss Atlas and became a world champion. And then in 2021, I got taken back out post the pandemic and won for a second time, claiming the title twice.
That's amazing. So sidebar question. So I work out. What is life like when you're trying to be a professional bodybuilder? Like, is that your career now? So you gave up your IT career and all that? Like you weren't working anymore, or like?
No, still working.
So were you like working and then going to the gym for 5 hours?
Yeah. And it really is like that. So you asked what's involved. Like, I mean, I trained for over 10 years. I trained pretty hard, as well. I'd say particularly the last kind of 5 years. And training to me still was 5 days in a gym, hour and a half most sessions, still pushing it, you know, still working it hard. Difference of being then on prep is that there are no off days. There is the extra. So every day I would walk. I'd get in, 15,000 steps. That could be 2.5 hours of walking. I'd have to go on the stepper. I do an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And that increased at times on the stepper. So then doing cardio on the stepper, as well as 2.5 hours of walking, as well as then training and doing the hour and a half in the gym, along with then the posing practice. You know, so it's a lot. Like when I think back to those days, it's like waking up. Like I still like to wake up early and get my gym session in. But it'd be wake up, walk to the gym, or drive to the gym, do the hour on there, then try and find 2.5 hours to walk throughout the day. So taking a half hour in the morning, taking an hour at lunch, taking another hour at the end of the night, then finding time to go and train after work, then finding time to practice. And the thing is,
Yikes.
Not only are you doing that every day, but you're also keeping to the diet, which means that you're always hungry because you're never eating surplus. You know, you're always in a deficit. Every single day you're in a deficit. So there are no off days. You're always in a deficit. There is no. So it's man. It's. When I think back, it was like, I don't know, an extra 5 hours a day, like 7 days a week, most days, of what the commitment is. And then along with that, if you wake up today and you're aching a bit or you're tired a bit, and you get up and get on with it. You know, there is no off. So it's.
Are there different classes or different types of bodybuilding? Because when I looked at your images, they look different. Like I'm used to seeing bodybuilding women, and they're like huge and you know.
Okay.
So is there a difference between what the bodybuilding that you did versus like the typical images of women bodybuilders that I've seen online?
Yeah.
Not
So,
to be disrespectful.
no. But it's the same with the guys, right? If you look at guys, like you'll meet a guy and he'll say, "I'm a bodybuilder," but he won't be what you would think. Or sometimes if you look at, you think what a bodybuilder looks like, because you might be
Yeah.
what you've seen with them being kind of, I don't know, 10 times the normal size. Like
Yeah.
being built in a particular way, taking certain things,
Yeah.
look a certain way. Yeah, there's many categories. There's lots of different categories on both the female and the male side.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why you'll meet guys who are bodybuilders, but don't take the same things, don't look the same things, don't wear even then the same up on stage. You find guys that they're in the physique categories and things, they're wearing board shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Not little. You look at the men in
not a little thongs.
bodybuilding, not little thong, exactly. So, and it's then the same with the women. We have certain suits, like some of the women will wear like almost like a suit, and you'll see them doing like the physique women. They have completely different poses. Some of those will include kind of popping muscles, different things.
Yeah.
Whereas the bikini girls, then what I'm doing, which I guess would be similar to like the physique men, is that we're just in a bikini, and our poses are a little bit more, but yeah, a little bit less what you would say is the bodybuilding kind of get your muscles out posing. It's more about the shape of the physique and hitting those particular frames.
What are these judges looking for, like in these competitions? It's always amazed me. I'm like, this guy and this guy look just alike, but somehow they choose one over the other. Like, what? What are these judges looking for? Like certain striations in the muscle? Like,
I always find this interesting. I think in any competition where it's a human judging, anyway, there's a lot that they can be taken into account aside from just what they're scoring. Just on their human perception of what they're seeing or what they like or what they. But yeah, I think from what I know, I mean, I've not sat on the judging table, so I've never had the wonderful opportunity of seeing exactly what they're judging on. But I understand in a lot of cases it's everything. So it's not just the size of your muscle. So you can go to the gym, you can get great muscle, but I mean, how you present yourself on stage is a huge thing. So that getting yourself into the right kind of condition so that those muscles show in a particular way. So that you're in that condition is going to be one thing. The posing is a big thing, because your body looks completely different angles depending on how you pose. So now in that pose, you can have a great physique, but then be terrible posing. So then you get knocked down because you might come out. That could be the case, Mike. You look at a guy and think, well, he's definitely got it, but he comes out, and the other guy just out angles him. Yeah, but then the other guy comes out and he just out angles him, because he knows how to just tilt in a certain way and make himself look like bigger up here and littler down there, and then he might win it. Or a guy might come out and he might have awful tan. Maybe someone did his tan and they did a shit job. That's gonna get marked out.
They all look awful with the tan. I'm not gonna lie. If I was a judge, I'd be like, all of you guys look terrible with this tan. All right. I've never watched any of these competitions and been like, yep, this guy has a good tan. I'm like, all of you guys are awful.
I mean, it is, you are sprayed a few times as well, right? So it's not. Yeah, it's a rich tan.
It's like, yeah, you guys did too much. Whatever they did to you, like, yeah, take a couple layers off and come back to us here.
And it is nice. It's nice after about a week, actually, after you've managed to shower off a few times and you get that nice. For again another.
Oh, so it stays on for a while. It's not something that you go scrub off like that night.
You wish you could.
I thought as soon as the competition was over, you jumped in the shower and washed it off.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You jump in the shower, but it don't just come off. It's like stain, right?
Oh my gosh!
So when you actually stand in the shower after the comp, it's disgusting.
Are you standing in a puddle of orange?
Yeah, well, it's like black. It's like such a deep, rich, dirty, and obviously they've been putting oil on you all day, and so you just watch this like this brown, blackish puddle just appear. But then when you dry off, you are left with a fake tan.
And so your towel's black.
Oh, and the towel's destroyed. Yeah, everyone. If anybody bodybuilder knows and always has packed in their bags whenever they're going somewhere, new sheets, black sheets. You know, that's a given. You can't go anywhere, especially when you're actually competing.
Black sheet. So I didn't even think about that. So you can't even like sleep on the white sheets in the hotel room.
No. No. I've gone to bed before with like socks on my hands, you know, so to make sure you don't touch anything during the night.
This is the stuff that nobody talks about. I never heard of that, man. So, wow, you're basically like sleeping like a baby with like little gloves on and footies and everything. You can't.
Yeah. Especially like when you get the tan the night before, because it's just been put on, and you're going to go and have it done again the next morning.
Yeah.
And so it just needs to dry. So
oh my God.
I bet something you haven't also thought about, right, is actually getting the tan, or have you?
No, I have not. I have not. Tell us. How was it like getting a tan? Are you standing there like this?
So that was a real shock to me, because I had never had. I'm not one for kind of doing like the fake tan stuff, so I didn't know anything about it. And all I knew when I entered that comp that day was that I was going to have to get this tan, and so that was quite a big deal to me, because I was thinking in lead up to it, like, okay, what is this going to involve?
Oh God!
How am I going to do this? Does that mean I have to take my underwear? How does this all anyway? How does this work? And so I didn't know what to expect. And I turned up on the day and we're told, like, this is the time, this is where it's happening. And so I turned up and I walked in. I must have been there a bit early, because there weren't many other people there. And then next minute there's more women, and then there's more women, and then there's more women. And I could see guys like piling up like in another weight area. And I was like, okay, all right, there's like lots of us here. And then next minute it's like, oh, come on then, ladies. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And I watched everybody get up, and they all like line up in front of me. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
and then
God.
we walk around the back, and then next minute I got handed this little box. She went, here you go, that's for your stuff. And I've looked around, and there's just, I don't know, 20 naked women all bent over, taking their stuff off. And and I've looked around, and there's these two booths, and there's women stood there, kind of arms out, being sprayed, turning around, bending over, being sprayed. And I'm like, wow, if we had anything to be worried about tomorrow, we're standing on stage. Who knows?
Get rid of it right now.
Yeah, and I understand the guys get past like a little sock, you know? So as they go through, they line up, queue up, go into their group, and they will wear their sock while they get sprayed.
We don't want to spray there.
So if there's what I definitely realised that day is whatever nerves I had, anxiety I had about wearing a bikini in front of others on stage, you know, whatever anxiety I had about that, that definitely helped to shed. You were just
100%. You were just 100% natural just a day before, so.
Exactly.
I can't even imagine. So you guys are like in a room all getting tan together, like a bulk tan session?
Yeah. And that is the way it happens. And that is the way, now I've obviously done lots of shows. That is the norm of
So somebody just walking like, you know, like the paint guns that somebody's just walking with like this paint gun, just spray painting everybody.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Listen, I probably a couple years ago, we put up a fence, and I literally the spray paint we chose is orange. So, and I have the paint gun here, and there's a residue of the paint gun of the orange paint on the guns. I can't imagine somebody walking with like orange paint gun, like front and then back, like okay, time's up.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, and it is amazing. It's amazing to watch, because you just watch like my body. Like I'm white, you know. I'm like whiter than white, you know. I'm like I'm almost purple, like a bluey see-through kind of color. So you just spray it brown on there, and you just watch it. Oh, it's just insane. It's just.
That's amazing. So the tanning is to help show different angles, right? Like the muscles popping and things like that.
Yeah, like if I was stood up against anyone with a tan right now, their muscles would pop, and mine, you wouldn't even see it, you know. Especially with lights on stage, I think this is predominantly the main reason that it's done, is so that you can actually see your muscle. Whereas if I was to go on stage right now with those lights, you wouldn't see any muscle. You wouldn't see anything. It'd just be a white light, I think. It's what I would be on stage.
Like an invisible white person. That's
yeah, exactly.
just a glow. That's funny.
Yeah.
Did people cheat? Like I know, listen, I know bodybuilding, like the huge muscle guys, there's always like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like these world whatever guys, right? World champions. There's always swirling around them. Oh, they're on some stuff. They're taking all type of stuff. Like in your competitions, because you weren't those competitions, I guess you were a different category. Like, did people cheat in your competitions, like taking stuff they shouldn't?
Yeah, you say cheat. I mean,
or is it not considered cheating because everybody's doing it?
Everybody's doing it. Like, Mike, I have been so naive to it, like so naive to it. Even in most of the years I've been doing it, I was still really naive to how many people because I thought, a bit like when you said, well, are they definitely categories then? Because I thought all bodybuilders looked a particular like way, and that's what I expect. I thought if you doing these things, you looked a particular way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not the case either. And I don't know enough about this stuff. And I've been around a few people, particularly on that journey, that do know this stuff. But yeah, it's rife. It's rife. It's rife in the world, I would say. Actually, there are a lot of people who take stuff who aren't bodybuilders. You know, a lot. There's a lot of people who never plan to get on stage, would never want to do that, but are still one of the guys in the gym who are taking it.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's widely used. It's not widely spoken about. I still find that really a bit unfair. You know, like I think like if you're going to the gym, like I've been with friends before, and like one of my friends last year, he was like, I just don't get it. Like, why can I not get the size? Like, why can I not get that size? And it's like, because that's not natural.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get that size if you want to take something, but you're never going to get like that naturally because it's not possible. And so I still, like a lot of things in the world, right? There's a lot of fate, and there's a lot of like this is what you could do, or this is what this looks like, and it's all a load of all right. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and no doubt in that in the industry and with like celebrities and stuff, there's probably things that they would never be allowed to say or have never been allowed to say.
Of course.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that just continues. You know.
Wow.
So yes, definitely rife in all categories and in just gyms. I think actually, Mike, is what I'm beginning to recognise since I've become a little bit less naive to it.
Yeah. I mean, as guys, I mean, I've never been like, I don't think genetically I can get big, but usually anytime I see someone that is really, really big, I'm like, yeah, you're on some stuff, and they may not be, but I'm like, yeah, you're taking some different stuff. But when I see the bodybuilders, I'm like, there is no way the human body can get like that. Like your muscles can get that ripped and you're that jacked without you taking something. So it's always like, and nobody ever comes out and says, yeah, I was on steroids. But me and the people I know and my friends were like, yeah, there's no way this guy gets that big without taking something. It's not possible.
And there is a certain point, right? There is, I mean, some guys, women can get to a certain, but that takes a lot of years as well. You really need a lot of muscle maturity to even be able to usually pass off anything that looks like that and not be on it. You know, that would you'd be one of the few that have the serious muscle mass there, like that's taken years. So I think then you can sometimes maybe people would maybe think there's something when there isn't. But for most of, I think for most people who are those kind of sizes that are a bit unreal, there's probably something. You know?
Yeah, it's like, well, you guys like why is there ever like a large just mass investigation into this stuff? Because I mean, you think the audience is stupid to see human beings that large and think like nobody's doing something? And I don't know if they're doping organizations or just not, you know, they don't care like they do like in track and field per se or something like that, or in other sports. But it's just weird that nothing's ever come out to say, okay, everybody that's on this stage is on drugs. That's really what we need to hear. Like everybody right now is on drugs. Just go ahead and accept it.
Yeah.
And we'll live with it. Don't try to fool the audience and act like we don't know. That's
Yeah. Well, now there's federations that are set up because they do test. So that's how
really
yeah.
they do
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
And what are the results? Because everybody's on drugs. What are you testing for?
So, well, this is the thing. So because I've been asked this a few times about bodybuilding, actually, like, do the federations test? It's like, if they've ever tested, and it's just been a thing that's not been publicized or spoken about. But then what has happened off the back of that is that then federations have set themselves up to stand out as being something that is tested. Because as a whole, no, it's not. But then there are federations that are set up specifically to be able to stand in that and say, none of our athletes take anything. All of our athletes are natural.
Stop.
So, yeah. And so there are those that exist. And I think it's UK DFBA, actually, one of them, are very good at, maybe getting the name wrong with that, at publicising it as well. To go, wait there, he won last week, but we've got the drug test results back, and he was actually lying. So, and they were like, kind of just put it there as well and tell you, they're lying. So,
he was actually lying.
So we've taken it back, but we did give them the title of so and so, but we've taken it back, and we're telling all of you that we're doing that as well. So yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, though.
Sounds real fake. Like, come on, we know all of these guys already. Like, what's the point? That's hilarious. Oh man. All right, I could talk about this bodybuilding stuff forever. Because man, I nowadays, we could watch different sports on TV, our favorite sports all the time because of YouTube. Like, we don't, but when I was growing up, what was on TV at the time was what you had to watch. There was no alternatives. So I watched a lot of bodybuilding competitions and, different poses. And growing up, I was like, you guys are on some stuff, and little scrawny me will never look like that, right? Without taking this stuff. So I'm glad I got confirmation from someone in the industry that, all these guys are juicing. It's not just in your head that, these guys are unnaturally big. So.
Yeah, because it's just so unfair, right? What that does to a person's psyche.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, what is wrong with me? Why can they do that and I can't?
Yeah.
And
these guys walk around like, oh yeah, it's natural. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to call anybody out by name, but somebody, The Rock?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's rumors swirling about The Rock, doing all this stuff, but he's never admitted it, and of course he's never going to admit it. But people are like, "How are you?" Rock is like in his 50s or whatever, and he's like huge, and I was like, "Come on, man, you're taking stuff," and he's on his social media and selling different protein shakes and protein powders and things like that. But people are under every Rock post, people are like, "Come on, man," like. You may be taking that, but we know you're also taking some other stuff. Stop.
Yeah. That's just the things he knows he's not allowed to say because it's he needs to advertise, market for whoever these brands are, right? There's an image to
go ahead and get your money, Rock. But we know what's we know the real, man. Stop playing. Oh my God.
But it does, I think, it's like that in life though, isn't it? With anything. When you know something, but then what you're seeing and being told tells you different, it really does. It can really mess up with people's heads, really. So it's, I hope that anybody like that does, like, that feels like that at any point, allows themselves to believe what they believe and leave it at that, Like if you know that you're looking at these people and as far as you're concerned, that definitely is unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
But they're telling you that it isn't. I would just not worry about what they're telling you. Also, not worry about sharing your beliefs, but keeping your beliefs as your beliefs, to recognize that actually the likelihood is probably not. And in knowing that it's not, you can give yourself grace on that. You're never going to be where they are or look like that unless you were to do those things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to talk about that because I had that question for a long time. Like, these guys are so fake. But all right, so you go
And
from
you never know,
bodybuilding.
because I mean,
Uh-huh.
when I was on stage, I remember early on, I had a girl come up to me afterwards and then ask me how much I take of X, Y, and Z, and I was like, don't
Oh.
know what you're on about. So there is this as well, you know. People, that's why I say like I've been training for 10 years, you know. So
Oh.
when people saw that suddenly I was on stage, it was like, how did you go from this to this? Why didn't you
Mm-hmm.
just suddenly start lifting weights? I've been lifting weights for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I already had muscle before I decided to stand on stage. So it wasn't
Right.
that I went 5 weeks, I've suddenly got to build muscle.
Yeah.
But then I did
Instant
have,
muscles.
yeah, then I had the questions of, yeah, what do you take this? Do you take that? Do you take, and I'm like, I don't even know what these things are.
Jesus,
But,
man.
and that's when I realized myself and appreciate that there is a difference between new muscle and mature muscle.
Mm-hmm.
That somebody who's been training for 10, 20, 30 years is always going to be larger or have more muscle on them than maybe the other people who train for 5.
Yeah.
You know, because it's compounding, isn't it? It's built, and muscle doesn't take a small time to grow. It takes a long time.
Okay.
So there are people out there as well. I think we can see and go, yeah, okay, maybe there's some, that's mature, and then there's, yeah, that's extra.
You gotta boost. Hey, I don't want to hate on anybody, but hey, we could tell the difference, people. Come on, okay, let's stop playing. Now, good for you though. I mean, you were able to beat out. I'll call them cheaters. You don't have to. You were able to beat out cheaters and win world championships 2 times. So, as you're doing that, right? Are you thinking, man, I'm gonna be doing this till I retire, or you're thinking about your next move? Like, what is that? Because now, obviously, you're not in that world anymore, right? How do you transition, and what was part of your transition from, hey, I'm a bodybuilder, this jack person showing off my body, to now I'm gonna be helping others to overcome their past, and resilient coach, and all that stuff, now becoming what you are now, master NLP.
Yeah, okay. But just thinking back to after it happened and competing and winning. I think, like I said, I mentioned briefly, like when I set that goal, it was because I already knew I wanted to go into the field of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And I also knew that I wanted to prove to others that you could come back stronger. And so it was all part me wanting to go out to America and wanting to win. Wasn't because I had ever wanted to be a famous bodybuilder. It wasn't because bodybuilding and becoming a pro was something I aspired to do, It wasn't because of any of that. It was because I'd gone on this journey and was on this journey, and bodybuilding had to be a companion. So I thought it would end that year, actually. I thought that would, without looking any further ahead than wanting to have done this, I thought it would maybe end that year. And then obviously we had the pandemic after that. But after winning, I was invited back out. So because of the competition, they said they gave me a green card. I can't remember what they called it, but basically brought me back the next year, the following year, because I'd won. Because they took me out and I'd won, they said, right, we're gonna bring
like
you
a
back.
special visa or something.
Yeah, you're going to be part of the team for the next time.
Oh wow!
So obviously thinking that would be the year after, it wasn't. It was the year after that because of COVID. And so I've continued, and I actually, even though I then moved into coaching and studied neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy, learned these other amazing tools that can really help us to get back into that subconscious, that like we talked about, that programming that we develop when we realize that it's maybe not serving us, or we want to understand how it can serve us better. There are some really great tools, techniques we can use to get back there. And so I learned some really great tools, techniques. But the bodybuilding was also something I thought I would maybe continue with, actually. But this year I have another challenge. We like the challenges. And I've been told I've got potentially some health concerns, or health problems. So this year I've hung my heels up. So as of January, I have now retired, I guess. Not expecting to, but knowing it. Also never expecting to be on this journey, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a beautiful blessing. It's been wonderful. It's been a big part of my journey. But yeah, as of this year, I've had to take my health as a priority. And so never say never, and I may compete again in the future. But for now, yeah, heels are hung up. And it falls in nicely again. The focus, attention being on me helping others. I needed to help myself first, and that was always the goal. There were things I needed to do for myself to be in a position I felt to be able to help others. And so being in that position and this now happening, I will take the blessing in disguise, as we like to say, and find and see that there's a blessing in it, and that my attention and sole focus now. There's now 5 hours a day, potentially, when I'm on prep.
Yeah.
Back to my business and helping others. So
no orange beds.
No orange beds as well. But my last prep was 21 weeks. Like 21 weeks. That's 5 months of 5 hours a day of hard going, no off, of no. It's a lot, So yeah, I was ready for it again, ready to go again, but at the same time, I'm also ready not to, and I'm ready to go. Okay, I'm going to continue. This is the path I'm on, and this is the things. This is where I can put my attention to now. So I will take the blessing out of it.
Yeah, not to turn the tables and me becoming the therapist here, but I feel like just listening to you and interacting with you, your life has been full of these unexpected blessings, we call it, right? Like these change of direction that maybe start off not looking like a good thing, but it turns out to be positive from the very beginning, right? Being kicked out is a negative that turns into the driving factor, and the next thing happens and it's a motivating factor, and it's gotten you to where you are now. So me, having just met you sitting on the outside, it's like this is like a stepping stone to the next thing. So if I could switch chairs with you for a second, I'll say that this is a stepping stone of your next level of greatness that you can achieve. So that's good. So
thank you.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what that is. I don't think many people know what that is. I sure didn't before talking with you.
Yeah, okay. So neuro-linguistic, I remember when I first come across this. So I was on this journey of really wanting to understand humans. I wanted to understand my mum, why she'd been the way she was. I wanted to understand the police officer. I wanted to understand myself. Human behavior became something even more I was just fascinated by. And then I came across neuroscience and the studies of the brain and how the brain works. And I started to look at how adversity affects us, how trauma as a child or as an adult affect the brain, what actually happens on the inside and in the parts you can't see. And how does the brain actually work? Like I mentioned, I didn't really go to school, and I don't know who knows much about the brain or who doesn't, but I know I definitely knew nothing really as to how the different parts of the brain work, where like emotions or memories are stored, and how it pieces together. And so and how those parts of the brain are really affected, or impacted by the things that we go through. And so I became really fascinated by wanting to understand that, because even if I think back to the police officer, like, okay, take away that what they did and that they hid it and all that stuff. I obviously will never know if he has any remorse or feels in any way. But let me just assume that he does, and that he is a normal, good human being who made a mistake that day. Then why? What I want to understand what takes us to that place? Because on a really human level, we've all done things we wish we didn't. We've all got angry when we wish we didn't. And I think on just a really human level, without knowing whether he feels anything or doesn't. And I've been experiencing both of that. My mum, I guess, doesn't feel remorse. So I know what it's like to deal with a real asshole, let's say.
Wow.
But I wondered if, even how does that work, So, I went on a real journey to understand that. And as I was beginning to understand it and see how things kind of piece together and start to understand that how the things we go through really do affect how we think, feel, and act as an adult. I wanted to learn. I remember coming across one day when I started to look at anger. Like, why what could have caused him to be angry that day? What could have caused him to do that? And I came across this statement one day which said, the reason that many people carry anger with them as an adult is because they went through something they morally disagreed with as a kid. Because they didn't have a voice to voice it, that anger sits in them and it filters. It filters the way that they see the world, you know, and it stays there repressed. And I remember thinking when I read it, like, not only was I asking the question of why had he done that, or like, why was my mum the way I was, I also want to know why do I get angry when I wish I didn't? Like, no, I've never done that. I'm not aggressive in that way. And but I get angry when I wish I didn't. You know, I still come home some days, shout at my son, and then feel guilty, and then have to go and apologize. And I wonder why did I even get angry? What is it that couldn't control? So I wanted to understand on a really like human level, how does all of this work? You know, and I remember reading that statement that day. We carry anger with us if we've been through things that we morally disagreed with. And I immediately, as soon as I read it, knew on a very selfish me level, I was carrying things. It made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense. Not only did it make a lot of sense, but then had the question of, right, great. So, oh shit, great. Okay, so I think this is what's going on. If I understand this concept, if I understand the brain, didn't know anything, we then learnt things we went through, we put a meaning to how emotions. It just all, I was like, oh, right, okay. So all this is making sense. We like to think that we're conscious of things, right, and that we're in control. But like right now, when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at the screen, I'm talking, I'm not thinking about how to talk, how to get the words out, what I'm going to say. I'm not thinking about anything. It's just happening. Yeah. The same, my heartbeat is racing. If somebody was talking right now, I would react. I would think about how I'm going to react. I would just react. You might react differently. I might punch him. You might run. I might run. You might punch. Like we do things without thinking, right? Yep. And so, yeah, having discovered that, I really wanted to understand, okay, this wonderful news, this is a great awareness, but what do I do now to change it? You know? And so I really went on a search. How do we change it? What can we do to change it? And through that search, I discovered these really great tools called neuro-linguistic programming, or this theory, this approach of how the brain works and how we can change it. And so NLP came about in like the 1970s. It was two guys that created it, Richard Bandler and John Grindler. And they created it by observing a number of different people. They observed successful people and took out the strategy that they were using, the mindset that they had, what they did, what worked, and how they would overcome or be resilient, overcome adversities, achieve success. And they also looked at therapists and how therapists were being successful, and how they were achieving their results for people. And again, they extracted those strategies and those tools, and they created what we now know as NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which stands for neuro being really your thoughts, linguistics being the language of that, and then the programming being your programming, the strategies that you run, the coping mechanisms that you run, etc. And so NLP gives us an opportunity to really understand how that's working, how the information you're taking in is being digested, how that then impacts your thoughts or your feelings, and how that impacts then your actions or non-action or reaction or whatever the case may be, how we develop into the people that we are, develop the personalities that we have, the characteristics that we have, the behaviors that we have. And it provides us with tools, strategies, techniques in order to change them, to upgrade them. And so upon first finding this stuff out myself, I just thought it was fascinating, magical, and still do. Actually, I'm all these years later delivering it, becoming a master coach. I'm about to become a trainer, finally. And so my goal really is to be a bit of a different trainer in that when I came into this, I went searching for these tools because I wanted to be a therapist. I'm not a therapist, but a coach. You know, I wanted to help people. What I'd like to do is make these tools more accessible to people who have no desire maybe to go into the field of helping others, to being a coach, but just want to learn some really great tools to help themselves.
Yeah.
So they can be
What you
better
said,
mum or dad, or help their children, or help their kids with anxiety, or what. Just be armed with a few more resources.
yeah. Yeah, what you said a couple minutes ago really hits home. So obviously my audience is mostly men, and not being able to, something you morally disagreed with in the past, right? Not being able to disagree in the past, not being able to show emotion in the past, coming out years later, and revealing itself in ugly ways. That's something I think a lot of men can relate with, because
Yeah.
growing up, we weren't allowed to show emotion. A lot of us, we weren't allowed to question things, or if we question things, we question them internally. We couldn't question things externally, right? Depending on how we grew up, we couldn't say, "Hey, this hurts." So all these things, whether it was emotional abuse, physical abuse, whatever it was, we kept it in, and then we grow up and we're acting out in certain ways, and we're like, nobody knows. We don't know that it was because way back then when we were 6 years old, something happened. We experienced some traumatic event that we couldn't react to, we couldn't show disagreement to. And now, as we've aged and gotten older, we're doing certain things that don't align with even what we believe now, but it's because of something that happened, way back when. So the more I have these conversations, I tell you, the more I'm learning about the psychology and, myself and how other people react. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot that we weren't taught,
So
and
much.
that's keeping us back from being who we were meant to be, and keeping us back from achieving our true purpose and true success in life.
A million percent, Mike. I think this information, if we had this information, I do not see how mental well-being could be as bad as it is.
Oh, God.
I don't think there could be as much struggle and as much suffering as there is. Bad people will always exist in the world. Shit will always happen. We will always face hurdles, adversities, things to overcome. But not having this information, we suddenly, we turn like, I don't know, 16, 18, 20, whatever age it is. You suddenly have all this responsibility. You're suddenly running like an adult. You have no idea how the machine on your head works. None of us. There's nobody. And then it's like, well, why did I just shout at my girlfriend? Or why did I just do this thing? And now you feel terrible, right? You've just done something you wish you didn't do. You can't understand it because consciously you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Consciously, you know what it is you want to do. Unconsciously, which is what we're ran on, right? Which is operating us. Unconsciously, your brain saw something, it made sense of it, it reacted accordingly. It saw something, it filtered it through that shit that's there. It put a meaning to that thing. Maybe that person doesn't respect you. Maybe that person doesn't listen to you. Maybe that person doesn't love you. Maybe that person, that's what you're assuming. Maybe that's the meaning you put to things. Because when you were a kid, in a similar situation, it meant they didn't love you.
That's exactly what happened. Yep.
So what happens? You then think this person doesn't love you. And because as a kid, the last thing you are going to do is be vulnerable because you weren't allowed to be. It didn't matter that you were upset. It didn't matter that that thing hurt you. It didn't matter that you're angry. It just didn't matter. So what then happens as an adult, and even if your partner or somebody is saying to you, oh, be vulnerable, talk to me, tell me what's, it's like a blockage, for a lot of people.
You can't really do that. Yeah. You can't really do that.
No.
Yeah.
I think about like years ago with my ex, I remember like even in my head having that whole like part of my brain going, just tell him how you really think, just be like a little girl almost, like I love you and I'm sorry, and the other part of me like, fuck that. don't do that. Do not do that, and that bit was so strong, and that bit's the powerful bit. It's like, that's my protection, that's my like going, nah, because it already knows. It already knows. And I think sometimes we don't even, if I think back, I didn't even realize that sometimes it was my fear of, for a long time probably actually, it was my fear of being vulnerable that was the problem. But it was because I had never been able to not only be vulnerable, but be listened to, or not be put down or made to feel less of because I was being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So when you grow up like that, you just, you say, it just becomes part of what operates you, right? And you don't understand it. And what I find really sad is that without this information, not only do we go through pain as a child, but then we can go through and cause a lot more pain as an adult.
Right. So it stays a cycle that you can't get out of, because you don't know what's driving it.
You don't know what's driving it, and so it's from such an unaware. Like they say, knowledge is power, and I really do believe it is. Like this, knowledge is power. Like it really is. There's nothing more challenging in the world than us being in our own head.
Yeah.
Even when I look, like I said to you about my dad, obviously having mental illness, even when I look at that, like he didn't come into this world like that. He didn't come into the world with mental illness. That happened in life. That happened through going through trauma. That inner world becoming so, I can only imagine, negative, toxic. Even when I've looked at like things like that, like mental illness, how does that happen? You look at like DNA of people, and they say, some scientists say, like everybody or a majority of people have got it in them to become ill, and
mentally ill,
to become mentally ill, and all it takes is something to spark off
to trigger it. A
bit like getting a bloody I don't know, cold sores, isn't it? They say everybody can have that in their system. It just takes that once
to come out.
And once it has, and I think that mental, not for everybody, obviously, all mental illness, but I think a lot of it would be different if we had a lot of this understanding, including the way it's treated, the way that we nurture, look after somebody, understand somebody, and don't see them as maybe mad or a certain way when we know their brain is going to be in this particular state, had they been, that it's going to operate like this, that this is what we can expect, that you may be seeing things like that. You may be seeing perceiving situations to be true, and you're seeing them through a filter of anger. You're seeing them through a filter of the stuff you've been through, not the reality of what's actually happening. And I think all this kind of knowledge, understanding is like, I think it would make it certainly made a big difference to me and everybody I've ever worked with. Once they have this information, it's like, Jesus, how did I not know this sooner? Why does somebody not give? How much easier, better? How much pain I could have avoided? How much if I had just understood, what was going on with me? And because the thing is as well, a lot of the time we don't want to. Not even maybe don't want to ask for help, don't know who to ask for help, don't know where to go, don't know what it is we don't know, like
we don't know anything, and that's why I have this platform, and I'm using it more and more for these types of conversations, because what I've come to learn is that there is I actually talked with somebody this week, and it's like there is no guidebook to life, and there is nobody readily sharing this information with us. And especially as men, we don't look for directions, right? We'll be lost, and we're not gonna go, for the most part, we're not gonna go ask for help. So there is no one sitting there to help, and we're not gonna go ask for help. So it's a double whammy. So we're like, what to do? So you're struggling in your mind. You're wondering why you have these thoughts. You're wondering why you get angry, why you lash out, why you have this self-doubt, why you can't stay focused on the project, like why you can't be who you want to be, or who successful people are portrayed as being, right? Why can't I be like this person, even though nobody's perfect and nobody has it all figured out? But why can't I be who I want to be? And nobody ever says, go back in your mind and figure it out, right? Fix your mindset. Again, like I said at the top of the show, like as I've had more and more of these conversations, I've realized my mindset needs some fixing, and I'm willing to bet the majority of my audience is in the same boat. Why have I not achieved these goals that I have for myself? You may not be, you're not homeless, you're not living in a terrible situation, but you haven't gotten to where you want to be and living in your purpose because your mind is messed up, but you don't realize that your mind is messed up, and you don't know why your mind is messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one thing that can really help, like thinking of anybody who's listening as well. So in an instance where, like, just as you shared, if it's that you're not taking action on something that you'd really like to be doing, if you're not moving towards things, or if today, I don't know, you've got angry at your kids or your wife or your partner when you wish you hadn't, or whatever it is that's going on in your life right now. Every single day we tell ourselves stories, right? Every single day. If, like, right now, I don't know, if I phone somebody or phone somebody down the road to help me with something, or a company or whatever, if they don't do as I say, I'm going to put a meaning to that, and that meaning that I put to that is my story. It's the meaning that I'm putting to it. It ain't the real meaning. It's just what I thought the meaning is.
Yeah.
And if I put the story to that person doesn't respect me, doesn't listen to me, looks after everybody else but doesn't look after me, whatever it is I come up with, that's going to impact then my action. I might be a right asshole because I think you are. I think you're being one. So because my perception, the story I've told myself, right? And so this just being able to begin recognizing the stories you tell yourself, that is so powerful, because those stories have an impact on the way that you're seeing the world. And in not all cases, but a lot of cases, those stories come back to deep-rooted beliefs. So if, for instance, you come home today and you walk in your house, and like I was mentioning earlier, with my son when he was growing up, you walk in today and you find you get angry about something, and then you're like, why did I even get, it was like nothing, why did I even get upset about that? Then you can ask yourself, what did I think when I saw that? What was the story I told myself? Was it that he don't listen to me? Was it that he don't respect me? Okay, so taking that story, where did that story really come from? When did I first experience feeling like that? When did I first have that belief? Because that's usually where it will come back to, is that at some point really young, usually, that belief was created and you're still operating from it since, you just operate from that. So if we can get back to and understand, okay, what was that? Was that, I don't know, when you were a kid, whenever you spoke up, you were always dismissed. And so you created a belief around that your voice doesn't matter, and so whenever you feel like that, because it's painful, it wasn't ever nice, you feel that same shitty pain in an instant, and in an instant you react accordingly. And so that understanding the story you tell yourself every day is really helpful. If you're not taking action today on something that's important to you, if you want to start that new project, that new business, and you're not doing it, what is it you're telling yourself?
Oh,
and then where does that come from?
That's a tough one. So if I find myself procrastinating, it's probably because I'm telling myself a story.
Yeah.
That I can't do it. That, oh man. Yeah.
It can be one of the big reasons, the story, our voice, what we say to ourselves. Yeah. And that again, it's not conscious, We're not consciously thinking, I'm going to tell myself this thing. So where's that thought coming from? It's coming from beliefs. That thought is coming from a belief that's in there, and that's when we talk about limiting beliefs. They're limiting
beliefs.
They're holding you back and you can't see them. They're deep-rooted beliefs. But so this is really, stories you tell yourself is so helpful in every way. Helpful to help you take action. Helpful if you're taking that action and you wish you were taking a different action or having a different reaction, or to really understand your psyche. What's making up your makeup is looking at those stories. You get home today, have an argument with your girlfriend, what is it you're telling yourself? You're, I don't know, find yourself running out of patience today, you don't have patience to hear what your girlfriend or what your kids are telling you. What story are you telling yourself? If you want to be more patient, you want to be more, then you might want to upgrade that story. You might want to change it so that the story makes you feel how you'd like to feel, and therefore to have the action you'd like to have.
How do you change the story? How do you change the story you tell yourself?
I think it depends if you can recognize, if it's just a case of okay, so I was telling myself that he's a bit of a dickhead. Is there another way I could look at this? Could it really be that actually, because we can easily say to ourselves like, I don't know, that person doesn't care. Well, okay, do they really not care? Is it really that they don't care? Is there another way that you could look at this? Is there another? So we frame things. We frame situations. We put a frame around them. Usually, well, this means this. You know, when that happens, it means this thing. And if they're doing this certain thing, it means this. Well, it can be really helpful to, is there another hat? Is there another story? Is there another way we could look at this? You know, is there a hat you could try on that would get you a better outcome? Is there a different hat you could wear that would make this relationship better? Is there another way? And let's just try that. Let's try that on. And so that can be a great way to actually change, you know, instantly, like change a story. Okay, so I'm looking at the situation, I'm thinking, well, I know, like, if he really loved me, or she really loved me, then surely she'd move in with me, or surely she'd love me, or surely she'd. And if you're thinking like that, for instance, then that could cause somebody to go, right, protection mode, guards up, push you away.
Yep.
However, if you were to think, same situation, I know that this person has been brought up to be a provider, could be like anything like that, I don't know, whatever it is. I know that this person's been a provider, and if they love somebody, that's what they're going to do. So isn't it amazing? Doesn't it show how much this person loves me? The fact that they aren't just wanting to rush into it, and that they do want to do these things, because that's how this person wants to show up for a person that they love. So it must mean they love me, you know? So same situation. The situation has not changed, but the outcome and what's going to happen in that situation is very much dependent on what we do, right? So the frame we put around things, the way we see a situation, the way we perceive it, the meaning that we put to it, impacts how we feel and therefore the action we take. And so by simply recognizing that we're seeing a situation through a frame, and we frame everything, of going, okay, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Is there another way I could look at it that might help me a little bit more?
Yeah.
And what's that look like? And let's try that on. And then if it's something where we're, okay, this is stories, this is beliefs about me, then understanding where they've come from can be really helpful, Mike. So that we don't find ourselves in that conscious conflict of still not understanding, you know. If there's beliefs back there from childhood that are limiting us, then because they will drive us, sometimes we might not be able to get out of that so consciously, you know. It might not be a conscious, right, I'm thinking about it this way, let me think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It might be more of a, okay, the story, the meaning I put to those things was this. Where was that belief created? It was created in childhood. Okay, let's now, and then there can be a number of different ways. Like I use some hypnotherapy, NLP techniques, which help us to go back, looking at those memories sort of from a bit of a different perspective, and that allows you to release some of the emotion, meaning. It allows you to change the memory, really. So the memory's still there, the things still happen, but your perspective, meaning, beliefs, what you have around it, you look to change, you know.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a whole another session to dig into that. That's
But it's amazing. But the thing is, the more we can understand this, you know. Like if you've got a story, another great question you can ask yourself, because you mentioned earlier, Mike, like about the fact that, yeah, sometimes it's like something that happened when we were 6, you know, and that's what's running us. And it's like, how do we even, so if you notice, like I say about stories, beliefs, you'll hear about this in anybody you're talking to is in the world of personal development. Sometimes you can find it's like a bit confusing. Like, what are these stories? What are these beliefs? And so a great question you can ask yourself is whether you're thinking about money, business, relationship, health, is let's say we're just thinking about money, for instance. You want to start a new business, you're not taking action in the circumstance of procrastination. You know you want to earn more money. You know consciously you believe you can. You know you want it. You're not taking action. A great question you can ask yourself, what was your first experience of money? When you think back to being a kid, what's one memory, vivid memory you have that you remember of your parents first discussing money? Because what we want to understand is, where did that belief get created? That's the root of it, you know? That's where you want to get back to.
Ooh.
Where did it get created?
Man, I could already see it now, because for a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, first experiences with money is not having it.
Yeah.
Not having it. So that sets the foundation for any kind of experience with money all the time is the first experience with money is not having enough. So now, as an adult, it's protecting the money, not losing money, and thinking about the negative outcome of if I don't do this and I won't have money. So yeah, at least for me, and it's taken me a while. It's taken me a while to get away from that. I'm still working on that. But I can imagine a lot in my audience, a lot of folks listening to me now, their first experience with money was the lack of it. And that if they're trying to be successful in life and in business, that is all of their limiting beliefs probably started with the lack of money as a child. Jeez.
Yeah. And believe in how you get money and what money is worth and what people who have money are like. And,
yeah,
you know, because that's the then, when you've got to get asking that question of how do you get back and find these limiting beliefs. Sometimes it's that, these beliefs, when you were born, you didn't have beliefs. So at some point, they got created. And once they were created, unless somebody proved them to be wrong, then they wouldn't have changed. And that's why we can find ourselves so confused, because as an adult, it's like, well, I don't get it, and where is this thing that's causing me to do it? Well, that thing was when you were 6 or 7 or whatever, and you saw that thing for the first time. Money, first time you heard it, got the concept that it got you things or whatever. When you heard that, what was the belief that you created around it? And how, and what we often find then is, can you see, and usually you can quite clearly, how that belief is operating you today? Can you see how the two tie together now? And it's that shift is the change you need to make, and be sometimes just by being able to align things internally, you get the breakthrough you need to be able to take the action. It's that missing piece sometimes, like to go, and your brain internally piece it together like a little puzzle and just go ping ping. That's
why that.
Well, now I get it. Okay, all is good. Right, we're off then. We can go again. Right, now I get it. Like, because until you get it, you don't get it, right? So
you don't know.
It's just
you don't know what you don't know.
No, I don't know what I don't know. So why am I not doing this thing? What is driving it? What? And then it clicks, and you're like, okay. Well, I even feel different, because so much just clicked inside, and now I'm and that might be just that simple thing. Could be the one piece of information. I've worked with guys before who've been like really successful and struggle with their weight, and they're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. How can I be this successful in life? How can I be this successful in business and then still not stop eating bread or stop eating something? Why can't I?
Hey, lay off the bread. Lay off the bread.
But then you go back, and it might be that, I don't know, as a kid, it doesn't necessarily have to be parents. Could be someone at school. Could be, I don't know, the first time that you experienced or thought about your weight, your image, the belief that then got formed was when you first got told you're fat, and that you're and so that really simple thing could be the reason that you're still fat today. Because you will be what you believe you are. We show up as what we believe we are, as what the identity is that we think we are. And sometimes that identity is not true, but it's the identity that is what we have been made to believe we are. Like what you said about you can know you're capable of more, and you are, but something's holding you back. It's because I like to think of it as almost like infected, or like an old operating system. Someone started you out with an old operating, and it's just all out of date. There's just stuff that's just, it's out. It'd be like me trying to run a laptop now that's 10, 20 years old. It just wouldn't work. We couldn't have this. We couldn't do this call. While it might all be capable and the functionality might be out there, and there might be loads of other people doing it, if I was still trying to run on my old computer, I couldn't do it. No matter how much I want to, no matter how capable I am, I couldn't do it. And that's unfortunately, that's the way we are, isn't it, as humans? I think anyway. Understanding everything I do now and the way we work, this it all makes a lot of sense.
You just said something there. That's like probably the tagline of the show. You show up as you believe you are. That's an amazing concept. You show up as you believe you are. Wow. That's
a great
powerful
tagline to have for the show.
That's amazing. You show up as you believe you are.
You
if you
do.
believe, if you doubt yourself, you're gonna show up as someone who's doubtful. It's gonna come across that way. So that's
But sometimes you don't know what those beliefs are. That's the thing, you know?
yeah,
So you show up as you are, but you don't sometimes know what that is. Like,
yeah.
what
Why am
that
I
is,
showing up that way?
as I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why is this my identity? Why is this? Yeah.
yeah.
And it's because it's just not maybe you're not consciously aware of your identity. And it's maybe not conscious identity that you would even want, but it's the identity that's running you, you know, that was created, that you can then upgrade and change and update and get rid of the parts that don't work so well. When you understand and you become aware that they're even there, right? And that's what's going on for you.
Yeah.
There. And then it's
So
all about upgrade, I think.
you've overcome a lot. You're I'm gonna call you successful now. But you've overcome so much. Um, do you still experience fear and doubt and like you're in this space where
Yeah.
you're a therapist, you're an expert, right? Master NLP. Do you still experience that stuff now? Limiting
Yeah.
beliefs?
Yeah,
How do you
loads. All of
overcome?
it. All of it. In everything. I don't share anything with anybody that I don't use and that I haven't used and that I don't use on myself to help myself. That has been, you know, everything I share. And I'm pretty sure that I have got complex PTSD. So I believe since I got assaulted that day,
Hmm.
I have had PTSD, and yeah, I think very rationally. I think very fast, a million miles an hour. My brain has definitely been in fight or flight since then, if it wasn't already for the rest of
Hmm.
my life. So yeah, these tools again, why it's been so helpful and continue to be so helpful to me. This knowledge, this information, says, yeah, I don't operate how I did for the years up to getting assaulted. Something has changed. My fear, it knocked something out of me, you know. And not only did it knock something out of me, it did something to my brain. And so, yeah, I think irrationally, I think, which is great now because I can understand it all, and question it, and see it. I've had extreme panic attacks over the years, and I had to learn tools to deal with them so they don't limit me. When I went traveling, I've been in Mexico the last couple of years, living a little bit, and that was quite a big deal, you know, solo traveling. Just mention the single part, and did I swing that into your fans? Didn't mean to do that. There's the over in Mexico traveling. Again,
You can say it again if you want.
being over in Mexico, you know, there were, yeah, we're traveling on my own and things. There's panic attacks and different things. So again, knowing why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, what is coming up for me, and what tools I can use, you know, to help myself with that. I've been I wouldn't have continued to, I don't think, achieve what I have and still be on this journey without them. So they're part of what makes it possible, because without them, I would, be very confused by things, you know, and things wouldn't make as much sense as they do right now. And I wouldn't understand. I didn't, you know, when I think back then, what anxiety was, or how that was experienced. And so, yeah, have all of those things, Mike. And I think we always will have, you know, there's always going to be things, blind spots for us, things that we don't recognize. And I don't think limiting beliefs, there always probably be beliefs that could limit us, but it depends what path we're on, right, as to whether they become relevant or not. And so, yeah, everything I share, whenever everything I share, I use myself. So if today I notice that something's not working for me, or I'm not taking action, or I'm having problems, maybe doing something that I said I do, then I look to understand, okay, what's going on for me? Is this what I really want? Have I got my why? You know, is this in alignment with me? Am I chasing someone else because somebody else has got it? We see a lot of that, right? So yeah, the tools, strategy, they serve me every day. And there's a lot, you know, let's be honest, I'm not some sort of superwoman, you know, I'm still human. I've been through a lot. And so, yeah, my brain is impacted, is affected I'm a human, you know. So very grateful to have come across this knowledge, these tools, and continue learning them and learn techniques to help me deal with experiencing PTSD and the exhaustion that really comes with that. And then being able to get my brain to work the best for me.
A lot of people feel stuck, or they've gone through something and they can't get rid of it, whether known or unknown. They're having limiting beliefs for whatever reason. What advice would you give my listeners to get started so they can finally achieve and become who they want to be?
Well, one, I hope that this podcast will help somewhat with that, and what we have shared as some tips and different things as we've gone throughout this. I think importantly is to be really kind to yourself, like something we tend to do when we've made mistakes, or we're not where we want to be, or we're not, that we can call ourselves all sorts of names. We can give ourselves a really shit time, and quite often what happens is that we give ourselves a shit time, and then we turn to things that make us feel better instantly, maybe not in the long run, and we can find ourselves going around in vicious cycles, right? And when you're not feeling very good, and then you're doing things that maybe that make you feel good but don't make you feel good, it just creates this turmoil, this vicious cycle, So I'd say, importantly, be kind to yourself. If you're not where you want to be, based on like what, okay, you're not where you want to, maybe not where you want to be, but you could be 10 steps behind. You could not even be here and have the opportunity that you have to be able to get where you want to be. And so I think sometimes we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves, like, where's the pressure coming from? If there are things you want to achieve, that's a beautiful gift. The fact that your brain, imagination, you can even see these things, and the fact you're breathing and woken up today and have the opportunity is beautiful. We can't do anything about the past. If we've procrastinated, we've wasted 5 years, 10 years, longer, made mistakes, there's nothing we can do, And the only thing we can do, and again, beating ourselves up for things that haven't gone so well, or mistakes we've made, or whatever it is, again, that can send us in a vicious cycle. We can give ourselves a shit time, go around in the same cycle. The thing is, if we want to move forward powerfully in things, then what I have personally found one of the most helpful things is to go, okay, what can I take from this? No, I didn't do great. No, I didn't put my best foot forward. Yes, I did make a mistake. Yes, I did. Okay. I can give okay. Because we can think to ourselves like, oh, well, it's all right. I can beat myself up. I deserve it. I deserve to give myself a kick in because I did this thing. Right. Okay. Well, what is the kick? How is the kicking serving you? Again, we can come back to story on why do we believe the kicking serves us? Well, were you kicked as a kid? Is that a belief that you've got as a kid? So that's why you think it doesn't matter now as an adult? Well, if we could just give you the knowledge now as an adult that the way you do talk to yourself does actually impact how you show up for your friends, your family, your kids, your partner, your work. If you know that it's having a negative impact on how you're showing up, and that the reason you believe it's okay is because there's a childhood belief out there running it, which is limiting you and hurting you. With this knowledge and awareness, do you think it would be a good okay for us to try and work towards changing that? So whereas usually, it might not have mattered, and it didn't matter. So by recognizing that, one, it actually does matter. Our internal world is more important than our external world. We have internal representations and we have external representation. We can externally see, hear, and feel, but we can do the same internally. I can internally see, hear, and feel. And those things are what drive me and what drive the outcomes of my outer world, right? So, I think being really kind to yourself, recognizing that the voice really does matter. Kicking yourself doesn't really serve anybody. It's good sometimes to give yourself a kick in. Sometimes we need a kick up the ass, right, to get moving. Yeah, that's right. But there's a gentle kick up the ass, or maybe a bit harder kick up the ass to get moving, and then there's beating yourself up, right?
Right.
And that self-forgiveness is super, super important, like especially for men, I think. I think it's something as humans we struggle with. I think men, in my experience, really struggle with that self-forgiveness, and that inner world beating yourself is what can just lead to turmoil, right? poor mental well-being, showing up in your relationships maybe as you don't really want to, maybe even with your kids, or it can have terrible effects. And so I urge everybody to really think about that inner world. Look after that inner world. If there's things you're not getting done today, don't beat yourself up for it. Try to understand it. Work out what's going on. You're going to get a lot more from spending your energy doing that than you will from criticizing yourself, beating yourself up. And if you're looking to understand then why that, or gain the value on changing that, do it for a day. You don't need to do this forever. Just because I'm suggesting this today, it doesn't mean that suddenly you've got to change everything immediately. Do it for one day. Take an action now that tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll spend the whole day consciously making an effort to pick yourself up on the thing. And just do it for one day and notice the difference. Because we do things because of the value they bring to us. And so if you can apply value to these techniques, these tools, these things, and actually you experience the value, not me tell you what it is, but you experience it, you're more inclined to do more of it. You just need to experience it yourself. So I can tell you loads of things to do, but what I'd say more importantly is take action on anything you've heard today while we're talking in this podcast. Take action on that one thing. Just take that one thing and take action on that, and receive the benefits of it. And then
be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Take action. And then my favorite line, I'll repeat it again. You show up as you believe you are. That's, to me, that summarizes this episode. Scarlett, this was amazing. We went over 2 hours.
This is the longest podcast.
We could have gone 2 more. We could have gone 2 hours more.
We so could have so easily.
No, I am really into this space now of basically hacking your mind, because I've come to recognize that I have so many limiting beliefs. And as much as I think, I've come a long way, meaning in my professional life, some people say, man, you're successful, you have a podcast, you have a family, beautiful family, you're doing this and doing that. As a whole being, there's a lot left where I feel like I need to get better at. And I've realized that I need to hack my mind and change my mindset. And I want the same for my audience, because I know as men, we carry around so much baggage that there's no way our minds are clear. So these conversations are helpful. I don't mind having them. 2 hours, we could have gone much longer. But I appreciate you sharing your stories on resilience. You literally started from the bottom. And now you're at the top.
Well, no,
damn near
yeah,
close
no,
to
yeah,
it.
no.
Or damn near close to it. But you found your way. So appreciate you again, Scarlett.
Oh, I appreciate you, Mike.
I wish you much success. And how can people find you? How can people get into contact with you? If somebody wants to work with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, okay. So you can find me, my website is scarlettoconnor.com. And then over all socials, I think I'm Scarlett O'Connor UK. So you can find me on kind of Instagram, on Facebook, or any of the media platforms, YouTube. And then on my website, I have a few different options. I mean, there's I have some free resources. I have a blog. I have a podcast actually that I stopped, but the episodes are there called "You're Not Crazy, It's Your Trauma." So in there, I do discuss a few different things, including I have an episode on mother wounds, another episode on carrying anger and emotion and how that can show up in adult life. There's a few different episodes, so people, some of your audience may find that helpful. So that was called "You're Not Crazy, It's Your Trauma," and that's available on all platforms for podcasts. And then on my site, there's a number of different free downloadables, options for you to gain resource there, and also an option, obviously, if you ever want to talk with people as well.
Awesome. All right. Y'all hit up Scarlett if you need to talk to somebody. Hit up Scarlett. Thanks again, Scarlett. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Mike, Scarlett O'Connor. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for 2 hours. I'm gonna catch you guys next time, though. Mike, Sports in the Rush. You guys be good. Peace.
See ya.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.